Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Ukrainian show which also covers um, Russia, China, and Israel, and sometimes United States. My name is Sasha Starr, and my guest today is Dr. Jonathan Lockwood. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you, Sasha. Glad to be here as always.
Yeah, glad to have you. And so lately, a lot of things happening which will benefit Ukraine, more or less, probably more than less. And one of this is today is August 1st. It's a final day of Trump's tariffs on the rest of the world. And hopefully from that point on, there will be a clearer picture of who is getting what and when, and how it all works. Um, I personally do have a lot of questions about this situation. It is probably could be discussed also on other problems, whether it's economic, investing, or political shows even. But there is one thing that cannot escape me is that probably the most important deal was signed with the European Union. And according to the deal, European Union will buy incredible amount of energy, um, all kind of military resources like weapons and so on
On what would appear to be a fantastic scale, to look at it at first glance, and maybe represent a much bigger investment than we've seen in the past. So yes, it does rouse quite a bit of interest.
yeah, the hundreds of billions of dollars worth of. You see, but Jonathan, you know what? Small details, when looked at, and it's very clear that it's never going to happen, and put a shade on everything else what's being discussed here. I have that funny feeling is starting with the $750 billion worth of energy for the next 3 years implies $250 billion a year approximately, and all European Union is consuming slightly over $100 billion a year. So how they will jump from over 100 billion to 250 of only US purchases?
Hmm.
That means that they will stop buying any energy from any other source, even if it's European sources like Norway, for example. What's an implication? How does it work out? Okay. Now another thing is that European Union is going to invest into the United States $600 billion. This fantastic number.
Yes, it
But
is. I'll
but
readily concede that.
but who signed that agreement? Donald Trump for the United States and Ursula von der Leyen for European Union. Is does she have so much money lying around to invest in the United States? She has
We'll
no
soon
money, period. It's a
we'll soon find
European
out.
Union may have that money, and not even European Union has that money. It's individual countries have some money, but investment will not be coming from individual countries, but from companies, from businesses of European. So how she dare to sign anything implicating the European businesses, whether they want or don't want to invest in the US, and if they will invest, when, how much, on what grounds. Furthermore, Trump proposes that it will be some kind of a US agency headed by Trump himself, which will collect all the money from Europeans, and then we'll decide where and when to invest and what. So he is going to decide on European investments before they ever made, and nobody signed anything. No European companies, to my acknowledgement, signed anything, even letter of intent to invest in the United States, and they already created agency which will deal with this money. Jonathan, you see all these details make you questioning all other parts of this agreement. This is so bizarre. This is so incredible. Look at Canada. Canada doesn't care anymore about any tariffs, whatever US is imposing on Canada, because they're saying that's your own business. So you want to put 35% tariffs on Canadian products coming to US. So you will collect from home, not from Canada. You're collecting from your own taxpayers. You want to collect 35%? Fine. You want to collect 50%? Fine. It's your own business. It has nothing to do with Canada. What will to do something with Canada when Canada will retaliate with their own tariffs? That will affect Canada big time, because Canada will start collecting a lot of money from US businesses. But before Canada will do that, this, whatever Trump is doing, doesn't affect. Same with the European Union. Whenever they're proposing that there will be, what, 15% tax on all European products, like automobiles and everything else, that's your own business. You want to collect this from your own taxpayers. So you want to collect from all your taxpayers' money, and then you will lower taxes for 1% of the richest people, provided that you will collect from your base taxpayers. What kind of business is that, Jonathan? I'd like to know your commentaries.
Well, it is a very interesting approach that the one would be best advised. I would almost say I would tend to agree with a lot of other observers in saying, let's wait and see how this plays out within, say, the next 6 months to be able to see the real effect starting to come true. It is in part probably the reason why Powell is holding back and not committing to reducing Federal Reserve rates. And he's waiting to see what is going to happen in the coming months, whether or not a reduction in the federal interest rate is justified. So, what is my inclination at this point would be to, okay, this is interesting to watch, but dangerous to try to predict or anticipate in advance what exactly is going to happen. So I would say that if we look at within the next 6 months, we are going to start to see the full effects of this policy. Whether in fact it results in the effects and growth that President Trump desires to happen, or whether it in fact has a harmful effect. But we are going to have to wait and see on this, because the maneuvers look very complex, as you and I discussed previously. This is like a chess match in which the one chess master decides to pursue a new and obscure line of opening, a continuation of an opening which he thinks his opponent may not be familiar with. So he's complicating the chess situation, but if the grandmaster succeeds in countering that, then that exploratory chess move by the grandmaster avails him nothing. So sometimes you get in chess a situation where one chess player will try an experimental line of opening, which he believes his opponent has not researched very thoroughly. It could happen, but in this case, I would say this is an interesting approach. It has some historical precedent and some reason, but things have to. I would also say that circumstances have to break favorably in the president's favor in order for it to work. And it is still an open question, in my opinion, as to whether President Trump will get the initial economic breaks that he will obviously need in order to make his strategy work. So I'm reserving judgment until we see the preliminary statistics appear to be supporting what he's doing, but we have to see if that continues or if that trend really solidifies within the next 6 months. So that's pretty much my take on it. I'm still
Uh,
reserving judgment.
Jonathan, what economic conditions which are benefiting the president, you can name at least a couple of them. What is benefiting him?
Well, I would say obviously increased development of a manufacturing base within the United States. And in fact, if businesses do start investing in transferring more U.S. productive capacity to the American side, which would result in more American jobs and more self-sustainable economic growth than otherwise.
Today's was a release of economic data, including unemployment. Unemployment is climbing, and most even worrisome is that there is an unemployment it's underemployment. It's the people who are working on some temporary low paid jobs or part time jobs. That climbed to almost 8%. So if you will take about 4.5% of unemployed people and you will add 8% of underemployed people, which you can qualify as unemployed simply because their wages are hardly much higher than whatever subsidies on unemployment people are getting, you're talking about a hefty 13 plus percent of Americans are not gainfully employed. And another number, which is even more worrisome, that the eligible workforce is shrinking. A lot of people stop even looking for jobs. So this is, and what you are alluding is to, there is a increasing manufacturing base. I don't know what facts you have that support that opinion. So far, no country in the world has invested anything in America. And it's a long drawn process. If somebody even wants to invest, it will take, say, several
It's not
years.
instant.
Several years will take it to set up shop in the United States. And this because of the changing policies and because of the fact that in 5 years Trump for sure is not going to be in power unless he will declare some kind of war against somebody and then using war up. He will remain the president for another 4, 8, 12 years or whatever. Uh, all these possible investments are futile and probably a fantasy as far as I'm concerned. Now, interestingly enough, European Union they could also impose 15% tax as US did on European Union, but they didn't. And why? Why did they decide not to do so? What do you think?
They too are waiting it out to see what the effect is going to be.
I think the effect is only one type of it's the inflation. Because if you take any product, let's say you take automobile from Japan, from Germany, from wherever, and it comes to your shore and then immediately becoming 15% more expensive. So there is a double whammy. Number one, you have to pay much more money for the car because of the tariffs. And if you will go to American manufacturer, they will raise their prices. Those are not going to sit still. They will raise their prices. Maybe not 15%, maybe only 8%, maybe 10%, or something like that. So they will use the tariffs as to enhance their profitability. So what is here to wait for? I'm puzzled. But maybe you are right. Maybe exporters will eat this 15%. So they will say, okay, so we will not going on a trip this year. Maybe we'll go next year. But
Some people may decide to exercise deferred gratification for the sake of a longer term gain.
they have no gains and no gratification either. You will see
I
that.
respectfully,
It
I
will,
respectfully disagree, and you may see the contrary. So,
but tell me, Jonathan, how the American importer of say German cars can benefit from 15% tariff? what is his gain, pain, gratification, or anything. He just stuck this 15% that he has to pay on top of the price of the imports. That's where we start. Okay, now let's go into gratification or any other positive signs for him. Where they're coming from? He will sell more cars, maybe. Or what's his gratification will be?
I say I'm reserving judgment on that because economics is not my field. Sorry
Yeah.
about
Oh,
that.
okay. All my questions are taken off.
So your questions to me are really irrelevant because that's not my field of expertise.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jonathan. It's I was trying to look at the situation more closely, simply to see how Ukraine will be affected one way or
Yeah,
another. That's
yeah,
all what I was trying to do, and it seems to me, overall, with all this what we just talked about, I think Ukraine will benefit simply because there will be more purchases of American weapons by Europe and then delivered supposedly to Ukraine. That's how it should work. And so far, it's interesting that the 10 days or 12 days, whatever uh, Trump gave to Putin, they are ticking out and very quickly. Today's 1st of August, and I think by 8th of August, the game is over. There has to be something done either by Putin or by Trump or both or whatever. I think that Trump will not be able this time to postpone it for another week or two or do something or we will do this and that. There is no more talks. Their action coming on
well, he
Ukraine.
will increase the pressure, and what I believe that Ukraine is doing, or what I believe they will do, is that they are, as I have stated previously, they are biding their time, waiting for the proper moment to unleash a decisive counterattack. And I've always contended the Crimea is the center of gravity of this entire war. And that in this case, uh, they are waiting for the opportunity to strike and finally destroy the Kerch Bridge. Once that occurs, then that sets in motion the prerequisites for a successful counteroffensive that will isolate the Crimea from Russian reinforcement and supply, and set the stage for a successful Ukrainian counteroffensive, which forces the Russian occupiers to surrender. That is the moment I am. That is the decisive moment and act that I am looking for.
I'm skeptical about this opportunity because I think Ukrainians are very mindful of what Trump sees as the most beneficial situation for him. And it seems to me that this present situation where Ukraine attacks Russia, but quite seldom and mostly it's very pinpoint attacks, but not general. Um, Attack on Crimea, for example, or anything like that, because that could upset Trump that Ukraine is derailing uh, proposed peace settlement. That's what Trump wants to do. So Ukraine, with its attacks or counterattacks or whatever, is sort of imbalancing situation, makes a peace more difficult to achieve. So I don't think that the Ukrainians will do any attacks of significance before, say, April 8th, say a week from now. What do you think?
They won't do any more attacks before what
Any,
date?
sig- any significant attacks
Oh,
that can imbalance the
right.
situation on the front lines before at least August 8th, which is a week.
Oh, before August 8th, I don't think they're going to undertake a
Yeah,
counterattack. No, no.
agreed.
But but after that, the Ukrainians are going to gauge the situation very carefully. If they see if they see a proper opening, again, or if they have made sufficient preparations to launch a decisive counterattack against the Kerch Bridge, and they see that opportunity, and they have no doubt, I have very little doubt that the Ukrainian military leadership has been wargaming and studying these possibilities, and they may have calculated that if we execute a certain kind of attack at this time and place, then it will be successful, and we will be able to force the Russians into an unacceptable position. And this is the opportunity that I'm looking for. The opportunity for the Ukrainians to achieve operational surprise, one operational surprise that will throw the Russians decisively off balance and enable the Ukrainians to force the Russians into a situation where they must, well, if not outright declare, if not outright surrender, they won't do that, but where they'll simply declare victory and go home, and and cover their tracks as best they can with their propaganda machine. So that would be the case there, and we would have to be very wary. Remember how I talked in previous shows about how the Soviets used to talk about the crisis of capitalism, where the capitalists, as they see continued socialist successes in the world, would in desperation lash out with their nuclear forces in a desperate attempt to reverse the situation. I encountered that more than once in my research, and what I'm saying here is that the Russians were in fact projecting their own thinking onto the United States as to what they themselves would do were they in the same situation. So there is a significant danger here that if the Russian political leadership, specifically Mr. Putin, gets into a desperate enough frame of mind, if he is desperate enough, he may in fact unleash or lash out with a desperate tactical nuclear counterattack. There is that danger, the danger of a desperate man, and one of the most difficult things to predict as an intelligence analyst is when you, as I've said on more than one occasion, is when your opponent is about to do something stupid. Well, it's also very difficult to predict when your opponent is about to do something desperate. So, but we have to be wary of this because the Russians have demonstrated this kind of thinking in the past with regard to their projecting their thinking onto the United States. So we have to be wary of the same possibility when the roles are reversed.
Now, what's interesting is that U.S. almost made agreement with India about tariffs, and India already announced that they're looking for other potential suppliers of oil and gas. And if the same will be happening with China, which I would say good chances that that will happen because China is in absolute shock about U.S.-European trade deal, and now they feel that there could be a U.S. Western Europe coalition which will deal with China, not just U.S. only, and this is very, very hard to swallow for Chinese because Europe, same as US, is a very, very big market for Chinese products and all kind of anywhere from toys to uh, computers, to just name it. And so that development also is quite positive for Ukraine. Now, it's been noted by economists that if Russia will lose its exports to India and China, they will lose 90% of their revenue from sale of natural resources. And this is crucial. This is where, indeed, if that combined with all weapons sent to Ukraine to fight, I think that could make Putin very quickly uh, to say that, sorry, I was misunderstood. I always wanted peace. It's just the procedures were not agreed, and we had to work harder to achieve that. So now, in 10 days, I think it has to work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, sort of version. I have seen the light.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's something else. Trump sent his envoy Vitkov to Moscow again. So what Vitkov can say to Putin, something what he's not already heard? What do you think? To invite Putin to White House? To what else?
There's no meaningful card there to play. No meaning.
Well, okay, I agree with you. However, Witkov was sent, so there is some
Well, at
kind of.
that point, at that point, yeah, Vitkov would be engaging in empty posturing. It's all show at that point.
Hmm. Well, maybe he will learn Russian language and culture. Maybe he will try to learn Russian ballet or something. And who knows? Next season he will perform in a Bolshoi theater.
Hmm.
No, no talent.
He'd be better off learning to play chess.
Yeah, nothing indicates his great talent in chess either. But but there are better chances than for nothing. That's
Well, as one comedian once stated, to play chess well is a sign of intelligence. To play chess very well is a sign of a wasted life.
But you know what, Jonathan? By the way, the situation in chess is changing drastically.
Yeah.
If you look, I will talk about it in half an hour in our chess program.
Oh yeah.
There are tournaments are being held mostly on internet. You see, unlike soccer, hockey, basketball, or any other sports, chess on internet, it's the same chess as you would see in
Yeah.
reality. So
Yeah.
that's the only game in town that nothing is losing on internet. So people are flocking now because there are about 700 million people in the world playing chess, and that could now that chess is being brought to their homes. You can turn on TV, uh, go on YouTube, and you see mm, a lot of different chess tournaments. Some of them are elite tournaments, and the
Yeah.
prizes are hundreds of thousands of dollars, which never happened before. There are corporate sponsors. So maybe if Witkov will seriously take chess, he could make a career at
We never know.
it. You never know.
But
Right?
yeah, but it is good. But it is. I will agree that that the internet has been absolutely wonderful for games like
Yeah.
chess, as well as for many other games, which can be board games, for example, which can be adapted to the internet format, and you get a lot more availability opportunities to participate for people with their leisure time can participate at any time in an internet tournament. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's very interesting development, and there are some Ukrainian grandmasters and girls who are doing quite
oh
well
yeah,
in chess tournaments. So it's quite interesting development. I hope they will do all well. And now the last thing what I want to discuss is Ukrainian production of drones
oh
is
my,
now second to none.
oh yeah,
And even Americans and Europeans are interested in expertise, what
yes,
they gain not only by designing the drones but actually let them fight on the real front lines. And now
yes.
Ukraine proposed to U.S. and European partners that we can jointly produce drones and let them exercise in a real battle. Where else you can do it?
Yeah,
That's
you
a
know,
huge proposition.
it's a drones have become a marvelous instrument for Ukraine, and it's excellent that they have taken the lead not only in production but in showing how they can be used most effectively in an innovative fashion. And this is very valuable for the United States military because they have basically given the United States a free lesson in how to innovate and effectively use drones as a element of future 21st century warfare. So the United States Army has a lessons learned center in which they study the lessons to be learned from not only previous conflicts but ongoing conflicts, and they do their best to incorporate those lessons into planning and force structure. And it appears that they are doing so now. And so, what the United States Army will probably do in the near future and foreseeable future is to continue to incorporate drones into wargame planning. You know, the
Yeah,
effectiveness of drones and how best to use drones as as an operational part of future U.S. Army operational strategy, but also, to the extent that it can be used in naval strategy and to support naval operations. And who knows? If even if you, for example, have you could, again in theory, if we were to upgrade the U.S. Space Force with a space fleet, a manned space fleet, as I have suggested, that space fleet could be supplemented, augmented, or supplemented by artificial intelligence, by the use of not only drones in low Earth orbit, but also to have AI robots as part of the crew for a space force. You have them because obviously AI robots would be capable of operations 24/7. They don't need to sleep, eat. They just need energy. So they need the energy, obviously. So you would have a very useful. This would lead to very useful and innovative developments in strategy and operations in all areas of the U.S. military. So the Ukrainians are making a contribution to the development of future U.S. military infrastructure in ways which we do not yet fully appreciate. But I have a feeling we will in the coming years and decades.
Excellent, Jonathan. Thank you so much for today's program. And we'll see you same place, same time on Tuesday.
Yes,
Have a great weekend to all our
you do the
listeners.
same.
Thank you. Bye bye, everybody.